Today's video is all about Jasmy, decentralized data democracy. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Jasmy an opportunity? Guys, we're going to be doing a bit of research today, looking into the project, obviously looking into some of the fundamentals, trying to figure out whether we should be bullish or not. Should we be accumulating a bit of Jasmy? And we're going to be taking a retail perspective, guys. It's so super important that we, look into these projects as a retail investor lens. Why? Because obviously we don't want any friction. As the newcomers come into this space, as we start looking into fresh new capital coming in, they're going to be doing research, and they're going to be relying on the website, the socials, and the team ultimately to provide all the data, all the transparency necessary in order to become fundamentally bullish. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using the website as the main platform to navigate what the project is all about. Obviously, some other websites and third-party applications to get our bearings. But ultimately, guys, Jasmy, right in here, right now, so far so good. As you can see, decentralized data democracy. Quite easy to understand in here based on those three words, given the fact that, ultimately we see a couple other things. We see data, IoT, Internet of Things, and then value. Okay, so right away I can probably, come up with a conclusion that basically they're decentralizing the data in a democratic way, and the data is coming from the Internet of Things, and the Internet of Things is a very broad idea in the sense that, especially in 2025 here, where we are ultimately exposed to so much digital integrations in our life that collect data, that it would be ideal to turn that data into some sort of a value-based, decentralized holding cell for us to be able to hold our own data in self-custody and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to get here right now is I'm hoping that we can get some very good clarity with regards to its fundamentals. We're going to be going live here on this research. Let's see what's going on here, what they got going on here. News, we're delighted to announce the listing of JasmyCoin on Bitforex. Okay. Jasmy trading tournament. Okay. And $5,000 worth of airdrop. So there's a bit of news here on Jasmy, what they got going on. Nothing too crazy, but there's a lot more that that should be here. Let's keep on going. Data democracy. So here, build a Japan's Bitcoin. Okay, Japan's Bitcoin. Let's see if that's valid or not, because to be honest, we don't need another Bitcoin. Bitcoin does what it does, and it does it very well. So why do we need another one? And, from Japan, doesn't make any difference. Jasmy is a tokenized platform that champions the democratization of data by combining blockchain and IoT technology. That really has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So that's a little bit of a problematic statement. To provide an infrastructure that allows anyone to use data safely and securely. So I really don't understand how they're referring to it as Japan's Bitcoin, when Bitcoin is very different from its value proposition described here of collecting data or combining, champions the democratization of data. Okay, so like what kind of data? We're talking about IoT technology data. Okay, so this is interesting. Very, a statement that's a little weird, but all good. Data democracy is what matters most here from a decentralized perspective. Okay, let's keep on going down. The website so far is very clean, very clean, not much noise. Okay, maybe the graphics could be a little bit more, let's say, intuitive, but other than that, we're doing good. Jasmy aims to regain data sovereignty for all. Okay, that's important. That's an important statement. The data sovereignty, full custody of data. That's what I'm hoping they're getting to. With the innovative use of blockchain technology, we can create decentralized and more democratic use of data, where you will be able to store and control your data in a safe and secure manner. Bingo, right here. Safely and securely manage and control your own devices. Bingo, right here. And provide safe and secure use of your data under clear, obviously clear transparency is key here, particularly with the hottest commodity that we have right now, is data. So with these clear rules and transparency, bingo, right here. So 3 solid points right now, and this page right here is solid because it gives you the main value proposition of what Jasmy's trying to offer. So I don't understand how this relates to Bitcoin, why they would even say it's the Bitcoin. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin, guys. It has to do with much more, in my opinion. Of course, I love Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's utility is limited, where in this case, if they're saying what they're trying to do is as such, guys, this is another next level of utility, right? We're trying to understand the value of our personal data in a very interconnected environment that is connected by various hardwares, Internet of Things type of hardwares, whether it be smart appliances, whatever the case is that you have running around your house and home office or office in your car, whatever it is. They collect data, and in this case, you're able to have it stored and control that data in a very decentralized way and in full custody. Guys, savage. That's great stuff here. Okay, let's keep on going. How it works, you're a lot of data. Okay, again, the graphics, I don't know. And then the merchant pays you in JasmyCoins to use your data. So what they're commoditizing is your data. And the data, let's consider it a commodity that you are able to, let's say, mine, quote unquote, because your data, as you develop more information about yourself online and such, you're able to store it in full custody, in a wallet. And again, we're going to be talking about this very soon because Jasmy has their own wallet that they're trying to get going in order to collect this data into, but then ultimately be able to translate that data, its value, into a currency such as JasmyCoin. So this is, again, next level type of utility, and I appreciate it. It looks pretty good, sounds good, conceptually sounds great. Fresh data generated by IoT devices will be stored securely, and merchants are required to pay for access to your data. So if you have data and you want to make some passive income based on that data generation, guys, guess what? You're able to sell your data privately. You don't need a third-party broker to go and sell your data, if you know what I mean. Everything that we do online right now is being tracked. And if you read the fine print on a lot of the free services that we use, guys, they sell your data whether you like it or not. Okay, so in this case, what they're trying to do is bring the control back to the owner of the data, or the creator of the data, which is ourselves. So good stuff. I like that. And of course, there's sublinks along the way, guys. Feel free to go into it a little bit more deeper. I know I'm going through the website. We're going to talk about the white papers in a second, get into a bit more of the technicalities. But just as an introduction, the website should do a good job as doing that. So the Jasmy IoT platform, so it achieves this. We have combined blockchain and IoT technology to provide the best platform for you. So you can see that there's now going to be a hardware layer. Right, there's got to be a hardware integration layer here in order to capture that data. So it's not only the blockchain, which is the software aspect of things, but they're going to have some sort of strategic plan in order to connect the hardware into the blockchain so that data has a home to live in. And you have the IoT devices, you have the platform, mobile applications, and the strategy and management support and the secure data analysis. So the IoT devices is what interests me most, because it's going to be the most friction out there for them to actually execute this platform or this idea effectively, because how else will they be able to collect the data? So in this case, either they're going to come up with their own protocols, which I'm sure they got going already, where hardware manufacturers can integrate, or they're going to have relationships with these hardware manufacturers where they're going to integrate their own hardware. I really don't think Jasmy is in the business of creating hardware, but what do I know? We'll take a look. We'll see what they got coming up in the future, or even in the current work. So Jasmy allows storage of personal information in a personal data locker. So we're talking about their infrastructure at the current moment from a software perspective. PDL, personal data locker identifies the individual by confirming the existence of the person's personal information. Okay, so basically that is where you store your data, in this personal data locker, PDL, part of their internal ecosystem. Okay, so one of their major innovations here is that functionality. Vision. Jasmy was founded with the idea of data democracy. We believe in every person's right to safer and more secure personal information data. Okay, good stuff. And you can see there's a bit of tokenomic information here, a bit of fluctuations in price lately. As you guys know, the market has been quite volatile. So excuse if my infographic at the end of the video is a little, a little outdated as such, because when there's volatility in this market, guys, we have a lot of price action and all kinds of stuff moving around. So that's that. But, generally speaking, the numbers are fairly, balanced. So you can see that the circulating supply amongst, in comparison to the total supply, pretty much we're almost in full dilution. Right? If there's a reason why there's some missing, sometimes it's a burn, or sometimes it's a this or that, or something needs to be, it's very minute. At the end of the day, it's full circulation. Okay, guys? We're not waiting for major dilution and token unlocks or anything like that at the current moment. So good stuff there from a tokenomics perspective. It provides tons of clarity knowing that that all the tokens pretty much are in circulation. Right? That's a big part of the tokenomic, metric. Why? Because then you don't have to worry about any other moving parts per se. Okay, we want to look at wallet distribution. That's important because obviously all tokens are in circulation. So what we got to make sure is that the token distribution amongst wallets are not centralized. Right? So various levels of centralization that we need to talk about. Just keep in mind, just before we move on, Jasmy's main value proposition is DePIN. Right? It's a decentralized infrastructure. Storing data in a decentralized way, collecting data in a very democratic way, and redistributing that data in a very economic way, being able to earn passively. So it's a really interesting full package. We've seen projects like this in the past. There are projects that are going to compete with this idea, and we're hoping to see what Jasmy has that is going to give it a point of differentiation from competition. So good stuff regardless. That's that. It's been, the market in general, from a price perspective, hasn't been doing much lately for a lot of these smaller caps altcoins. So we're just waiting for the market structure to be in favor of the lower cap altcoins. Be patient, guys. Jasmy blockchain stats. There's a little bit of information here with regards to the blockchain utility and how it works and all of that. Exchanges listed on all major exchanges, guys. There's no trading of exchange listings here. Okay, so if you're waiting for it to get listed somewhere, too late. It's listed everywhere, guys. It's Binance, Coinbase, and you name it, it's there. Okay, guys. So Jasmy is based on the fact that it's fully diluted. It has lots of liquidity on tons of exchanges, DEX opportunities, and so on. Now there is some things to look forward to because they're going to be releasing an L2 very soon. We're going to be talking about this L2 possibility and capability and introduction because it's going to add value to Jasmy significantly, because at the current moment it's either a private network that is currently used or Ethereum that is currently used, and we know ETH is not the best for scale, and it's not the best obviously for microtransactions, right? We know this. So we rely on an L2 to improve this transactionary rate. We're going to talk about this in a second, guys. Let's just keep on going. Let's just conclude. Let's just make sure that we got all of this. DEX exchanges. We got obviously Uniswap and SimpleSwap, and that's that. Good links here at the bottom. We got this right here, which is their Twitter. Go check it out. They have the Junction management. The Junction is an interesting thing. We'll be talking about that in a second. Of course, that layer 2 that we're going to be discussing. And then they got their Telegram and their Medium page, which is a blog, which a lot of projects have. But I'm hoping to see that they're keeping it up to date and actually using it, not just having it there and making it look dusty, right? So that's important. So you got a lot of information, how it works. We talked about that. We'll talk about the ecosystem in a second. White paper we're going to touch upon. I'm not going to go through it all because the website did a great job kind of entertaining this the value proposition, the problem, and all of that. We understand it, so we're not going to go and go through it all, but we'll skim through a couple of those parts. The roadmap we'll talk about. We'll get there in a second. I got that in the pipeline here in this video. The blog, we'll look at that. We'll look at a couple of things. No worries, guys. So let's begin. Let's continue. Just to let you know, as a side note, guys, It's important that we look at this, because when you go on aggregators like CoinGecko, you're going to be looking at the links that they provide, and I'm just going to say that these links right here are not the most let's say hospitable. Why? Is because they're the Japanese links, which is unfortunate because they don't also include the English links. Now we know that the Japanese market's big, of course, but North America and English-speaking markets are massive. But the problem is that when you go and click these links, it's hard for you to find the English version. So I was able to find that. Just to let you know that you're going to have to dig around to find the English version of their website to actually do a bit of research if you're English-speaking. Okay, so let's I'll show you what I mean. This is the Japanese website. You can translate it as best as you can. It does an okay job, but still, there's a lot of it that's still in Japanese for the most part, some of the infographics and things like that. But if you go to the global site, which is the one that we were just on, you can see that you get a lot of it in English and in the common ways that we are used to doing deep dives. Okay, so all good there. So just to let you know, back to the white paper. In addition, there is the Japanese version and the English version. You're going to have to, look around for the English version if that's your thing. Ultimately, guys, I'm not going to go through all of this because you can see that the first part, they describe the industry, they describe the problem, which is great, the challenges in the new digital age, and the stats and the numbers behind it, trying to justify their software solution, to justify the need for the software solution that they're providing. Respected, obviously, challenges for the user, there's challenges for companies, there's challenges for management. I'm not going to get into it, guys. There's a lot, obviously, there's use cases here, and you feel free to read it, obviously, towards realization of a digitized or digitalized society, decentralization, how to achieve it, edge computing. We know DeepIn is a big thing, ready to use IoT, so many things here. Our solution, finally, what is Jasmy doing in order to bring that value and the reason why we should be using it? Well, it's the decentralization, the democracy aspect of things, the ability to earn passive income and take control of the value that you create via your own personal data and be able to contribute to a marketplace where you can earn passively. These are all things, creating safe IDs and then all kinds of things like that. So check it out. Again, decentralized personal authentication and data management. Guys, everything that we talked about, I'm just going to quickly skim through all of this because I'm going to feel like I'm repeating myself over and over. Okay, and then you got one of the team members, which we're going to talk about also, because I know a lot of people are buzzing about the team. And I understand why totally. Okay, I do. So we'll get there in a second. And some solutions, other software solutions that they got here. IoT, you can see it everywhere. Different little applications and use cases. Anything that connects to Wi-Fi technically could be collecting your data. And we're seeing this a lot more and more and more. Okay, so that's that, guys. Just generally speaking, that's an app, the Jasmy Net, the developer program, and then so on. Okay, so their ecosystem. This is where I want to spend a little bit of time because at the end of the day, ecosystem growth in their case is most important. Because when you don't have the hardware collecting the data, then your ecosystem is capped. Your ecosystem has a bottleneck in that case, because the ability to to collect information depends on the various hardwares that you have connected and basically mining or producing that data. So it's important, forming an expandable ecosystem. This is what they're currently focusing on, because the introducing IoT equipment with the initiative companies, and by developing new solutions while deploying our core services, the SKC and the SG, through the applications of Jasmy platform, companies can leverage blockchain to provide innovative solutions as well, reduce labor costs and serve hosting fees. So what they're saying is companies can actually use the data as well to improve the way their hardwares work with the end consumer. And not only that, the end consumer can choose how to use that information in their own, as their own value, as their own, commodity, which is great, in their data locker, all saved in the data locker, and spread widely across areas, ages, genders, doesn't matter, type of thing. So I kind of like that. The strength of Jasmy's ecosystem, it is a digital world. We know that we're getting, everything is digital, especially now with AI and all of this. And it produces a bunch of opportunities around data and living, and making your lifestyle easier, let's say, and having that assistance by all the data that you have can assist you in everyday life. We believe that the ownership of this data shall belong to the individuals themselves, not to a centralized corporation. Guys, this sentence right here is very, very important, because that's literally what their objective is. Okay, therefore, they plan to create an environment where every data producer, you and I, can select and control service providers and the purpose of the data you use with regard to their personal data. So you're in full control on how you're going to distribute it, to who and to how and to what are the terms and so on. So this is an important step, because we're realizing, yes, gold, silver, oil, these are all commodities that literally have a lot of value. We all came to consensus on that. But we're still coming around with the idea that our data is more valuable than all of that, right? Information, right? So, and people are willing to pay for that. So they realize that that's the case. And the more we have these networks of IoT products, hardware products lingering around our living quarters and our offices and where we socialize, the more data those devices can collect, and therefore increasing the pool of information that Jasmy could store in their lockers, if you understand what I mean. So it's very lucrative here, good opportunity, of course, and we're seeing a lot of different smart things lingering around our house. As you can see, the Jasmy token contract address, it's an Ethernet address at the current moment. As you can see, this is the public chain that they got going on the contract right here. So again, just to verify, let's just go back. And that's that. Approved. They have different functions. They get into the functions of the Ethereum contract. So transfer, approve. They get a little bit more detail. I really don't see these often in white papers. So that's fine. A little bit of, functionality, or literally quote unquote functions that are available on the contract. So that's cool. Holding businesses, developer, program. You can see their token distribution. But now that they're in full dilution, we have to really see where have these gone in the last little while. How they've been, distributed, holding by business companies, developer program, 18% listing expenditures. The business needs to run business financing, again, airdrops for community and so on, incentives, so on. But I'll tell you this changes over time. It does, especially once you become fully diluted. You're going to see a shift little by little, right? And that's what's happening. It's almost like you got to track where these percentages goes. And I'll tell you something. If you analyze these two charts, right, and you look at what has been happening after 3 years, so 3 years after the listing, you'll notice that there's a big shift in financial institutions deploying, basically allocating positions in Jasmy. It's the financial aspect that interests me most. As you can see, there was nothing happening in the past, and little by little, okay, the other ones went up as well, right? No doubt. But the way the financial aspect, quantity of holding to 30%, that's significant, right? That is definitely significant. Overseas corporate bodies, another one. Look at this. Big move right here. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of more institutionalized adoption for Jasmy. And I can imagine it might be from the Asia market mostly. Again, they're Japanese, so it could be much easier to attract capital from their local markets first, given that we know Japan in general, from the consumer electronics, perspective, has been a very, prominent force. Yes, there's a lot more in, other parts of Asia, China, Korea, and all this, yes. But we know that for the most part, Japan does hold their own within that regard. So it is a good marketplace to begin. Let's put it that way. Jasmy relocated technologies and coil issuance plans have been primarily approved by Japanese authorities, including the Virtual Currencies Exchange and the Financial Services Agency. Basically, they got all the necessary compliance to kind of move forward with currency and all of this within their own local marketplace. So this is good, okay? And you got to understand where the team is coming from also. I'm sure the team has major connections within the tech industry to make things happen, easier with a bit more trust and so on and so forth. So this will further establish status of Jasmy as a market leader. And that's what the thing is, based on being the benchmark for the industry, especially in Asia, perhaps, and in Japan, and all this regulation that they got, compliance for, it could be the standard, and that's what a lot of people are hoping for. Let's keep on going down the data marketplace. Of course, we know that the platform will allow users to sell their data. We talked about this already. I think that's an easy value proposition to mull over. The roadmap is a little bit vague, okay, because they don't really give you too much of a time frame of where they're planning on going with things. But I've noticed that over 100 deep dives that I've done over the last couple of years, it just show that a lot of companies do not want to have that accountability. It's fine, I guess. It does show a lot of strength and confidence to say at least a quarterly target. It doesn't have to be down to the day or anything like that, but a quarterly target of where they want to be at. First phase, and I feel like, they do a good job discussing and emphasizing the importance and the details of each phase. So you can see second phase, third phase, and I believe that they are in the fourth phase in the marketplace expansion. So in the Jasmy's, in the Jasmy platform ecosystem, personal data is being stored in a secure, deep-pinned infrastructure, okay? It needs an environment to be safely and securely managed and so on, but more importantly, what they want to expand is their marketplace, okay? And we aim to achieve, or they aim to achieve, that all people, goods, and services will be interconnected, and all personal data that is closely related to people's lives, down to the fundamental needs of clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Guys, this is all interconnected already within our daily lives and applications and, smart products, home products, and all these things that we already have. What they're just trying to do is, make an economy out of it, right? And put it in control to the end consumer. So you can see that what they're trying to do is, here over the year, they have some targets, you have some ideas of where they want to get to. And then we quickly get into the team, which, based on the white paper, you got to admit, guys, this white paper is borderline just like a deep dive. And which means that they've written this correctly. Like, it's a good effort here as far as research and providing the details needed for a retail investor to get fundamentally bullish. And speaking of that, I think this right here is what a lot of people are hoping on and, keep interested in Jasmy. Their team consists of former Sony executives. That's it. That's the statement, right? That's where a lot of people really just, they hinge upon that, and they strategically made that the first sentence. That's it. Within the first few words, our management team consists of former Sony executives, one of the biggest consumer products, in the world, obviously, and here we are. Executives who have continued to create innovative products. Representative Director, okay, Ando, who has always held an entrepreneurial mindset. So I'm not going to go through all of this. At the end of the day, you got Vio Personal Computers, the brand of Sony of personal computers. That is a great relationship that they got there, and their whole research and development and their whole network that they've already built with, extensive, just a long, basically an extensive relationship that they have with the industry. Right, so they have a lot of connections. Let's put it that way. So let's just look at what this individual is about. Right, so he's the former president and COO of Sony Corporation. Guys, heavyweight, obviously. President of U.S. Sony Engineering and Manufacturing of America, heavyweight. Chairman of Sony Financial Holdings. Chairman of Sony Life Insurance. Chairman of Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Guys, there's no other better person coming out of Japan, maybe even the world, to handle such a project that is integrating consumer products as well as blockchain technology, in this case from a software perspective. Because, to be honest, based on their value proposition, in my opinion, the hard part is the hardware network. That's the hard part, right? And this is good, and that's a very Web 2 thing, if you think about it. Former CEO of SonyStyle.com Japan, operating officer of Sony Marketing. Guys, This is it. Like this is a stacked team, and then president of Sony Corporation, handheld computer company, Sony Ericsson Mobile. Like guys, who else do we need here? This is like a branch of the Sony, the Sony team, if you see here. And then you have the face. I believe that this dude right here passing the Japanese CPA examination in 2008. He's joining KPMG, a very established corporation. Obviously, he has been engaged in statutory auditing. Okay, so this guy's a savage, and his CFO in the accounting financial. Okay, all good. But what's more important about this dude is I feel like he's being pushed as the face as of the project, which is great, and I'll tell you why I think that's the case. And I'm pretty sure Harada is his name. Okay, he's the CFO at the current moment. Good stuff. Let's continue going down. You can see some of the brands, and there are some others. I think that I do a lot of deep dives, and I see logos all over the place. And I'll tell you this: they are very honest in the strategic partnerships that are listed here. Okay, this is valid. These are all very valid. Okay, so let's move on, guys. This is a great deep dive white paper. I would highly recommend that if you're interested that you actually mull through this white paper a little bit more. Obviously, this video would be hours long if I had to do that with you guys, but you can see as a quick summary in this deep dive, guys, this is valid. This is very valuable stuff. All right, let's take a look at tokenomics just a little bit here, because you saw that, given the fact that we're in full circulation, pretty much fully diluted, all we really could rely on is the wallets, and we got the wallets right here. And if you go right into this, if you go into the token holders and the wallet holders, you'll see that the distribution is quite interesting. Now there's a contract address here, fine, and then there's a couple down here that guys, honestly, transparency, I don't know who are the holders of these wallets. If they wanted to make it very transparent, they would have put these on the white paper. They would have put each wallet and what it was reserved for, if it was for the team, if it was for business, if it was for that. At least we had the wallets to know exactly. Why I say this is because, number one, the biggest thing that is flashing in my face is that the Binance wallet holds 8.6% of the supply. Okay, it's not a lot, but it's a lot as well. Okay, that's a big bag. Now, this is locked up into a contract, so you don't have to worry too much. There's going to be some sort of mechanism there for release and so on and so forth. And then if you look at the rest, there's a good portion of them, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And if you add all of this, the top 10 hold a decent amount of the tokens, given that Binance holds, again, 8.6%. Is it a bad thing? Is it a scary thing? Is it a worrisome thing? Not so much, but look, I would like to see a little bit more transparency, at least amongst these, and it would be nice not to see Binance hold so many. But again, this shows you what Binance thinks of Jasmy. Now, with that being said, guys, there was a moment, I think it was last year, where Binance I was thinking of delisting Jasmy, and things went wild, right? And I think they changed their mind since then, which is a good thing, because a lot of the times these delistings, they don't really have justification. So I'm glad to see that Jasmy is still doing well and everything's still going good with regards to exchange relationships, because it's usually a very fuddy type of event when that does happen. Okay, so all good here. Full transparency. This is a little bit, could be cooler, could be better, but it is what it is. All right, let's move on. Their ecosystem, just to go back there a second, their internal ecosystem, right? So I want to make sure that we understand that what Jasmine's utility is based on what their ecosystem offers, right? So their personal data lockers, their first main objective, in my opinion, and it's on the first on their list, is the fact that allows secure storage of files within the peer-to-peer network. Okay, this peer-to-peer network is a decentralized protocol. So in this case, you have various storage across the world in a decentralized storage solution, connecting with user IDs and so on and so forth. And this is not new to the space. We know what DPIN is all about. So interesting stuff, and obviously with their own layer of security and all of that they got going on. And we continue. Secure Knowledge Communicator, KC, the Secure Knowledge Communicator is the platform's core service that allows us to achieve data democracy by controlling, managing, and tracing our own personal data by ourselves. So that's what thing. You're trying to take full custody of your own data, and not only the custody of it, but the management of it. Okay, so interesting, right? This is where they're taking the data to the next level and connecting the user with a marketplace. And not only the marketplace, but not only a market, but a consumer and a customer of that data. Interesting. So the Smart Guardian SG is another core service in the Jasmy platform that allows easy and secure registration of the IoT devices. This is what I was speaking about earlier. They need to have some sort of protocol that allows these IoT devices, these smart applications, these smart hardwares that we got hanging around to connect to this network. So in this case, you can register to the Jasmy platform very easily, according to them, and at the same time to create an environment that can only be used by the owner of the devices. No third party, nobody tampering, nobody listening, nobody collecting, nothing like that. So there is a value proposition here that is very intuitive. And as you can see, all of these have to do with one another, but they're very distinct applications within their ecosystem, internal ecosystem. So Jasmy is a unique technology that links the ID information of the owner using SKC and ID information. Perfect. As the number of IoT devices increase, remember that was part of that's my worries, that's the most important thing for ecosystem growth for this idea to work. Manufacturers from a wide variety of industries, including home appliances, housing, energy suppliers, and telecommunications, are accelerating their business to realize smart home services. So in this case, they want to be able to tap into that market and provide some sort of easy integration into their network. And that's where I think, given that the team has a history and I'm sure a plethora of connections that could get them into the consumer product industry and with regards to technology, I think that might be a great edge. Ultimately, a really good edge. So these are all very important things, guys, for their mechanisms to work. We believe that the efficient reward system, again, back to that marketplace, is essential to building a healthy data ecosystem. So they want to make sure that there's an economic incentive, not only to interact and be a part of the network via hardware with all these smart devices, but also with the data. Right? With your own data, there has to be some sort of value there economically for you to want to sell your data, collect your data, and be a part of this ecosystem. Or else there's no adoption if there's no need, if there's no willingness or interest. So this is interesting, very interesting. They're bringing the reward system to the Jasmy platform as it collects data. This is where that transactional, relationship happens with data and the reward system. Interesting. Good stuff. Payment services. Obviously, they're going to have a little bit of that. And again, the president Sato believes a user's personal data should have its own wallet. Beautiful. This is even more interesting to me because when we think of wallets, we primarily think of currency. Fine, that's fine. Bitcoin has a wallet. This has a wallet. But then once we start talking about smart contracts and we're holding tokens, it's a wallet for tokens that allow us to transact, right? It's almost like when you go to an arcade, we hold tokens to play the game, right? And in this case, we hold tokens, Ethereum tokens, or this token or that token to transact or to play, or, quote unquote, on the network, on that particular network. Well, they realize, why only store tokens in this case? Why can't we store data? So for me, that's, especially if we consider it value, if it has value equal to money and gold and silver as a commodity, as we know data is very valuable, why can't we store it in full custody on our own wallet? Guys, I think this is going to take things to the next level here with PDL. It sounds interesting, no doubt. So what I look for in a deep dive is new innovative ideas, technology that are going to disturb traditional ways of doing things, and ultimately you have to understand that you're going to have to take a chance on this disruption, because if Jasmy takes the first mover advantage in this type of idea where we can start taking full custody of our data and commoditizing it, guys, this could be an opportunity. That's where you got to really think about your risk to reward and ultimately value proposition on a deep dive, right? This is why I'm here every single week. So interesting, no doubt. Let's move on. Jasmy Secure PC can provide enterprise with access control and security of access and programs and network boundaries, okay, security and privacy and all of that. Guys, this is clear. They did a great job here on their website, expanding on its ecosystem, its value proposition, and ultimately connecting everything in a very clear and concise way. Perfect. Good stuff. Let's move on. We talked about the roadmap already. I gave you my input. I think that it would be nice. This is so vague. This is not even a roadmap. Okay, the white paper does a much better job. I feel like at least give us an understanding of quarterly and you know and understand where they're going with things would be great, from human capital to actual monetary capital and so on. To know where their focus, what are they targeting in the next 3 or 4 months. That would be great. The company profile, I left this up because this is another profile page that I found online. If you want to read this, and you can see there's a lot of heavyweight still here. NFC, near frequency technology, guys, if you know what I'm talking about, 100 patents. These guys, Sony Corporation, there's lots happening here. Technology wise, they got it covered. No doubt. The team is full of engineers and so on. So good stuff. Dig around a little bit more if that's your, and again, the team. I had a lot to say on the team because literally I started reading. I'm like, guys, this is perfect. Got everything we need. And then I just want to spend a moment here on this dude right here, Hiroshi Hara. He goes by Hara, I believe. I just started researching the team and stumbled upon this individual, and I believe he is pushed to be the face of Jasmy. Now, in addition to being the face of Jasmy, there's this layer 2 concept that is coming out, being spoken about. And the layer 2 concept is important because if we go back a second and understand where the contract lies right now, and it's Ethereum. Can you imagine, in a congested network where gas fees are high, trying to do microtransactions on Ethereum with all your little devices around your home? What would that cost? Guys, it doesn't work. So right now, what they're in the works for is creating an L2 solution. And this individual is right into here developing the L2 solution. I believe it's called Junction. It's a AI focused L2, and that's what they got going on here. More importantly, but in addition to what's happening with that L2, he's also the face in such a way that he's going to be speaking at a conference. Let's see if I can find that before we get into this. I know it's on his socials right here on X, Blockchain Life 2025. The Jasmy management, Hara Jasmy CFO, and the Junction management. Again, that Junction, the L2 concept that they're trying to do to, again, make those microtransactions faster. That might be an opportunity, guys, to be within the ecosystem as well as with the Jasmy ecosystem. Is it going to be considered a dual token system? I don't think so, because it's going to provide a whole new value proposition, a whole new layer on top of Jasmy. Again, for those quick, speedy microtransactions. Over 15,000 attendees. He's going to be there as a speaker. Okay, so the CEO of Junction and obviously the CFO of Jasmy is going to be there. This is bullish, and this is Blockchain Life 2025, October 28th and 29th in Dubai. Okay, so that is bullish. Very, very bullish. So if we go back to here, I believe that this individual is going to be the face, and they're going to be speaking about Jasmy and Junction and how they're going to be leveling up the whole ecosystem with this L2. I think that's the main objective. Okay, so speaking of socials and all of that, let's just quickly go on their Medium. The last post that they have is in March. I don't appreciate that. Right? Because why even have this? And this is a common thing. I'm going to come down hard on a lot of projects that start up these Medium pages and then just leave them there to die. For me, it's I'd rather take it down. Don't have it there because it looks like you're not doing what your marketing team, communications team is not doing, taking advantage of it. So December 2024, and then March, and then the guys, this is not acceptable. We got to get that off or going, and then back to X. At least they're cranking away here at X. 126,000 followers. Okay, which is cool, which is awesome. I think what they really need to do with regards to Junction, and I'm not sure if it was smart to come up with a totally different branding, because it seems like a completely different project, and maybe that's their objective, or I don't know. It just feels like it's deviating away from Jasmy a little bit when it should be providing Jasmy some value. I would assume that that's the objective. Again, I'm a little bit out of touch with this because this is still in the works. The Junction L2 is still in beta, so we're still kind of waiting to see what happens next. So let's move on. New video shares the Jasmy 2025 roadmap. Okay, this is new. May 26. Okay, that's not new, but that's fine. Exciting Jasmy incubation product. This is what we're talking about, the incubation project. This is where we're going next with that. Different takes on AI DPIN coordination, which is good. AI and DPIN protocol. This is what we want. We want to start to see what's going on with Junction and how it's going to leverage Jasmy's technology. So interesting, good. I feel like that's what they're really going to be pushing forward next, based on their roadmap next for 2025, which is pretty much on the way out. Is this layer 2 solution? I'm curious. I want to see more. I want to see more from the team. All right, guys. As you guys know, I do provide a infographic summarizing everything that I found on this project. I'm going to make it available on all the socials. Let's begin by overall ecosystem. Again, just as a quick summary, ecosystem stacked with a lot of good tech. They got the personal data locker, the secure knowledge communicator, the smart guardian, and the marketplace, the Web3 integration. Amazing stuff here. 10 out of 10. You can't ask for anything else with regards to their internal ecosystem at the current moment. Utility, payments for data storage, access to rights for services. So, being able to access services such as the data and so on and so forth. Incentivizing both users and service providers through the token. It's the grease to make things happen. What I don't see, and I think they are going to be putting in their roadmap, which they do, is the governance as a utility. As a token holder, can you participate in governance? So if you look at currently they're in phase 3, ecosystem expansion, cross-platform dApps, AI and IoT integration, governance. That's part of their thing. That would be great to have a nice decentralized aspect, not only to their tokenomics, but to the way they run their organization, and then advanced DPIN to take it to the next level. Okay, so that's what we're focusing on there. That's pretty good. A little bit of timing. I would like to know what and when, and a little bit, at least to give him a time frame of sorts. The team, guys. I don't know what else to say. Backed by professionals with careers in tech, IoT, cybersecurity, global enterprise management, former Sony executives everywhere, and much more. I'm not just going to only focus on the Sony, but we got to really do that because, of course, it's Sony. But there's so much more talent out there in the team. But guys, there's like 3 or 4 of them from Sony executives, from marketing to engineers, like crazy. Okay, so 10 out of 10 right there. From a social perspective, there's a couple of things that bother me because, of course, the engagement on X is decent. Okay, that's good. Blog has been ignored since March. Not crazy about that. Telegram has very little engagement, which is a problem because they have no Discord. So there needs to be a communication. Somebody there, within the English language, because they may have something in Japan or Japanese somewhere. But really, I think the English market could be or I say English because of a language, but you get what I mean. The English-speaking countries could be critical and lucrative marketplaces to expand, even their IoT capabilities. You have to understand they should want this to be a global thing. So I think their Telegram, they need some sort of mod or somebody in there that can, engage and, provide answer questions and so on and so forth. And personally speaking, the Discord's so much better than Telegram anyway, but that's a side note. I think there's a little bit of work there that needs to be done with communications. I think that the links to the Japanese version of everything needs to be accompanied by the English version on aggregators like CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. I also think that some transparency or some communication in English across all of this might be a little bit better to develop it a little bit more. Their white paper is solid. I'll agree with that one. So they did a good job there. But I mean, in their website and their digital media, a little bit better there from an English perspective. Tokenomics, fully diluted. Again, guys, everything's pretty much out there. I don't know. There's some tokens missing, but sometimes it's through burns and stuff like that. Binance hold 8.6% of circulating supply. The top 10 wallets hold 30% of the circulating supply. It's quite a bit, particularly that, but if you exclude 8.6 from Binance and the rest of it is just business wallets and all the wallets, all the distribution. But it would be nice for us to be clear as to which wallets those are. And we can make guesses and such, but transparency is key, guys, and it would be nice to see that. Relationships, Japan Credit Bureau. Now, I talked about a lot of relationships. They have a lot going on. You saw even with Junction, you have IO there, in different AI projects going on. But I'm going to keep it a little bit more traditional, right? And grounded. There's others, and that's why I gave it 10 out of 10. But the ones that interested me most is the Japan Credit Bureau, exploring digital ID and payments. Okay, this is interesting. Transcomos, digital marketing and CRM using user-owned data. From a digital marketing perspective, guys, consumer data is valuable. It's gold, right? People will pay for that. And that's where I think this is where they're trying to go with is from a consumer market perspective, you got the hardware, you got the collection of the data, you got the safety of the data, you got the marketplace of the data, and then ultimately who buys it? Digital marketing firms. Perfect. CRM using, user-owned data. Crazy. And then VIO, an equipment and information management. That's what they're focusing on, helping with the relationship. But it's a Sony-based product. We know that's a Sony brand. It's their laptops. So the Sony integration and all of this is just crazy. It is very, very bullish, obviously. And that's great. 10 out of 10. Exchanges, there's no more exchanges that it can get listed on. It's everywhere, guys. So this is a good thing and a bad thing. Because if you're looking to front run an exchange listing, good luck. There's none. Okay, you might get a few here and there, small exchanges that, but for the most part, they're all there. Mexi, KuCoins, Kraken. We even got BitNex, guys. BitNex, is up and coming. They got a lot of good things happening, and I'm happy to see them there. But ultimately, so much liquidity there on various exchanges, and particularly Binance. As you saw, 8.6% of it is there. As you guys know, it is a small market cap. Its market cap is, that's the reality. It's only 741 million. It's not tiny, but it's small-ish. It's hard to really justify, an evaluation or a price projection of a project such as Jasmy. Why? Because there's not really any major competitor at the current moment, in the sense that, there's not like a lot of competition or a first mover within the space, within that narrative. Jasmy could easily be the first within the IoT space and the DePIN space that, tackles this, niche narrative. And if you think about it, it shouldn't be niche, because we know that these IoT products are everywhere. So it could be literally getting the first move advantage. Now, I looked at it in many forms. We'll talk about my projections in a second, but just to quickly summarize, financial investors have been accumulating, and financial and institutional and general investors have been accumulating. We've seen that based on the charts and the data provided. Okay, no governance. That's a little bit of, I would like to see that, at least some of it, to, decentralize some of some of the tokens that the team holds, so that, some decision making can be, run through governance. Bitcoin of Japan, I don't think that's a good statement. I would remove that from the whole idea, because in my opinion, from a person that understands the tech, I understand Bitcoin's value proposition. I understand it through and through. And you can't compare. And it's not fair to compare. So why even make that comparison? What Jasmy's trying to do it has really nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a totally different animal, and it's the best at what it does. But to compare it to Jasmy, that doesn't make any sense to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Let me know in the comment section below if you think I'm missing something here. But really, from a person that's been doing deep dives for a couple of years now, and heavily involved in this space even from a tech perspective, I really don't think that that's a great analogy to be used at all. My opinion, of course. Working with academia is a big part of what they do, and tech institutions across Japan and Korea. Okay, so I believe a lot of their market share right now, and we know the Korean market with regards to crypto is massive. They have a bunch of degens there. Japan does as well. So this is a very lucrative scenario here that we're seeing, adoption within that part of the world. Working with Japan's regulatory sandbox is big. We've seen already the network effect that the team as individuals have based on the fact that they are Sony executives, ex-Sony executives. This gives them access to people on first name basis, within this regulatory field, first name basis in the sandbox. Crazy. And identify verification. Perfect. Roadmap could use a little bit more information like timeframes and such. And then I want to just touch upon this Junction. It's a layer 2 blockchain infrastructure, operates alongside Jasmy's permissioned, clear, L1. So we see Jasmy currently being deployed on Ethereum. Okay, that is not Jasmy's L1. They have an L1, Jasmy's permission, so it's not permissionless L1. But what they want to do is put an L2 on top and make that work alongside, enabling permissionless Web3 interactions on their permissioned L1 that is built on this Hyperledger fabric-based architecture. Okay, so this is a mouthful. It is a brainful. And I feel like it would be, in the next little while, it's going to be lucrative that we pay attention to this, let's say, this evolving ecosystem, because it could definitely be bullish. Okay, just keep that in mind. I feel that could be an amazing addition or development for the Jasmy ecosystem. Okay, so Hera CFO Blockchain Life 2025. I think that's great for getting people aware and known about what Jasmy's achieving and so on. And again, with my projections, guys, it's a bit tough because there's no real major mover here, and within that narrative, we could say VeChain maybe, as a project that focused on supply chain management and all those Internet of Things objectives as well for the supply chain management and collecting data on chain based on that. Okay, very similar concept, I guess, but because there's no other competition that's leading the way directly, we have no choice but to kind of make some inferences here. And VeChain was the closest thing that I could think of. Maybe I'm wrong again, but it's not the point. It's its market cap that matters. The reality is that, I could see the price projection hitting maybe around $3.50, maybe even $4. This is all very possible. That's why I call it a projection, is because we really have to wait for the total market cap of the market to give us an idea of where we're going to be going. Right? We got to see how much fresh capital we can get into space. If the total market cap hits $10 trillion, guys, I'll tell you this, Jasmy, many other projects will be attracting their fair share of that pie. Right? And depending on the fundamentals and what they got going on, the team, the tokenomics, all those goodies, if all of that is in a bullish stance, guys, it's going to attract more capital than its competition, and it might even catch up and flip its competition in the up and coming bull run. So what we got to do, guys, is pay attention to the fundamentals and slowly DCA in high conviction plays. You have to have the convictions, not me. At the current moment, I give this project a 9 out of 10. It's a solid project. There's a lot. I could even still give it a 10 out of 10. But I'm trying to reserve that 10 out of 10 for projects that have these slight nuances of capabilities that, deserve that with those details. All right, guys. I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on with the Jasmy chart, because again, do we start scaling in now? Let's take a look at the chart. This is not the chart. The chart is, let me get that going for you guys. Ultimately, guys, the charts of the space have been doing very, very well. And we just got to understand that, as we're seeing bullishness bullishness throughout the market, we have to stay one step ahead, because if Jasmy starts breaking structures to the upside, we might be doing very, very well here. As you can see, the structure is well formed, it's matured, and this is the time to see things move. Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Now, as you know, guys, I'm a big believer in market structure, because market structure gives you data. You know, without structure, you get no data. Without data, how you're going to make an informed decision? Now, even with data and information, the decision still poses risk. We have to be clear on that. So I'm going to make sure I give you a layer of risk management here when I'm speaking, because really, although Jasmy's chart looks interesting, there's still risk on the table. And the risk is directly associated with the type of structure, where the structure is formed, and where the structure came from. Let's just be very, very clear here, is that this structure is formed after an impulsive move to the downside from here. Okay, so that's an impulsive move down, a bearish impulse. Then we're in a consolidation here that is a flag, a pennant. And then technically speaking, if you talk to any bear and any trader, they will be saying, well, guys, this could be a continuation pattern, right? And that's true. We got to be very, very clear on that. The thing is that from a trading perspective, given the overall structure of the markets currently, in the sentiment of the market, it is one of which that looks like it's ready to start reversing. Now, this is not a clear reversal structure. Can we produce a reversal structure here? Why not? And if we do, it's going to, essentially come out as a swing failure. What I mean is, instead of coming down and making a lower low down to an extension for another impulsive move, maybe the bears come down and sweep some of this trendline liquidity, come down to about here, which is at about 10 cents or so, no, 1 cent, sorry. And then from there, after we hunt liquidity, maybe even come down. We never know, come down for a lower low. I doubt it. But let's see. We come down to this level, sweep these lows. In this level, there's going to be a lot of fear for continuation. We get the bounce, and then we get back into the range again, back into these tops, right, areas, right into this consolidation. We might, get into an exchange of hands, but most likely what happens after this sweep is that we pick up an impulse that breaks the previous highs. And then once that happens, guys, what we really have to look for is the break of the structure, which is the previous tops up here confirming a higher high. And then when that happens, guys, it's likely that we start saying to ourselves, well, that was a change of character. That was a change of character. We came down, confirmation low, higher low. We broke up, higher high, confirmation higher high, higher highs and higher lows. The trend is your friend. Maybe we get a pullback right around here, given the fact that there is a little bit of emotion. I would like to fix this chart by putting this a little bit lower and leaving, okay, we'll leave that green arrow there just for reference from the past. And then we'll say, okay, this is a very psychological level. Very, very emotional level, better said, right into this zone. And from there, we can get a pullback. Ideally, it's not too crazy, and we form a structure. What about if we break out, guys, which we've seen a lot of projects break out like crazy in the last while, so it could happen. The beauty behind what I'm saying is risk management is clear. You need to be putting stop losses, and the only place that I can think of right now that is the safest place to put a stop loss is all the way down here. Because if you put it on this bottom, it's very likely that you become trendline liquidity. Here, you'll be very likely for becoming trendline liquidity. And this is the bottom that invalidates any bullish thesis, right? Because then we made a lower low. And that's no good. That's not a good sign. That's a BOS, a break of structure to the downside. Considering that, we might come down to the next order block down here and hunt liquidity where it matters most in the max pain zone. Okay, that's not what you want. Right, so that's where you're going to say, I'm done. No more bullishness here. We're coming down. At this level, this structure could be playing these games, but at the same time, let's speak pure, hopium at the current moment. It might not even do that swing failure. It may not even come down and hunt trend line liquidity. It may decide to stay right into here. As it approaches the apex of this triangular formation, it could actually break out. Again, I'm speaking of hopium here, just being bullish. We could actually break out and start moving. right? And we've seen projects do that. So what we really at this point is saying, well, we could go up or go down. Yes, that's the reality of the market, but the probability is that. The probability is as long as we stay above this bottom, above 0.008, this white line also, because that's more or less your invalidation where you should put a stop loss. As long as we can stay above this area, guys, it's accumulation time, right? Any dips into here need to be bought and accumulated, right? And if it happens where you happen to come into a flush opportunity where you can buy the dip and buy it on the cheap, this is where you're going to go and slam those buy orders. Right now is not a bad time either because you're at an inflection. You're at a point where we're using previous historical support as potential support once again after the flush below this horizontal. So we already had a big picture flush already with this impulsive move. We got back above, okay, flushed again, disrespected the horizontal support. But what about if it respects it again and this becomes a beautiful rising scenario like it did here? Right? You know, comes down into here and then boom, 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 it starts moving. It did it here as well. Okay, come down and then boom, 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 moves. What about here as well? What about if this happens again? Maybe we do come down. Again, maybe we do come down. We do the same thing and then boom, 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 we start moving. Guys, this is the way the markets work. At the worst times is the best time to buy. It's weird because that's the truth. And the most emotional moments is that's where you should be buying. That's where you should be taking profit. So we've been having a bit of red in the last couple of days. I would be keeping an eye on a lot of this market structure. Like I said, if it breaks below, let me just put some more concrete information here. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's put some more concrete. Essentially what I'm saying is two places to be looking at points of interest. Now, right now is fine. Like again, this is a good level, right? This is fair value. It's decent. Fair value, what I mean, you're not buying a discount and you're not buying overbought. You're buying fair value, okay? And then right into here, this is where you get oversold and this is where you're getting a discount. 50% retracement from the last pump. That's where the discount zone begins. Let's do a quick Fibonacci. No, that's the wrong tool. Let's do the quick Fibonacci. I always get confused with those two. Swing low, swing high. Okay, get down to the 0.5 fib. Right into here, we're already in a bit of a discount. If you take the whole swing, the whole move, the whole structure, can come down here, you get into a discount. If you can get to the golden pocket, 786, guys, this is accumulation phase, in my opinion. So let me do this. Let me just highlight this as a complete zone from where we are right now to all the way to 786, maybe even down to the 886, because really we can even sweep this wick. It might come down there as a magnet just to get there, to get people wrecked. Could be possible. This whole zone is an accumulation area for me, and validation is down here. And you can't be doing this on high leverage, guys. We understand the market cap is somewhat small. The altcoins haven't really caught their bids yet. What you're trying to do is build a position before it starts to run, right? You want to buy the bottoms and accumulate the bottoms. I don't think we're ever going to come down here, guys. That was the initial time where Jasmy was, you know, at the bear market bottoms. I really don't think we're coming down there. Again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. None of this is financial advice. But from a probability perspective, Ethereum's it hit price discovery. Bitcoin has been in price discovery for months. And this is the reality, is that the market is turning bullish. The total market cap has been breaking up above the $4 trillion level. We should be attracting fresh capital in this space, and Jasmy should be able to accumulate or attract some of that fresh capital that is being brought into this market. All right, guys, again, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. And you could vote on the next deep dive. If you join, you vote, and I do the deep dives the following week. And of course, it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.